Okay, good night. Tonight is not only Motzei Shabbos, night after Shabbos, tonight's also Erev Yontif. It's Yontif, it's Chol Hamoed. It's also right before the Yontif of Shvi Shal Pesach. We're preparing for the splitting of the Reed Sea. I want to share a few stories that I think highlight this theme of Hashem's salvation and in a dramatic way that coming out of nowhere. There is a Hasidic aphorism that I'm not sure the source of it, that when Hashem split the Reed Sea, he didn't only split the Reed Sea, but he also brought out then the salvation for every single Jew in every situation was all included within that initial splitting of the Reed Sea. That also includes the salvation for every individual throughout history. It's all included in there. It does say in Chabad Hasidus how the beginning of the coming of Mashiach and the resurrection of the dead started the splitting of the Reed Sea. I want to share a few stories on that theme of Hashem's salvation coming out of nowhere, and the truth is that the splitting of the Reed Sea is not just a physical miracle, but as Hasidus teaches, when the sea split and the water split, what also happened was that all the hidden godly energy in the world is comparable to the sea. Just like in the sea, there is a lot of things, a lot of creatures in the sea, but they're submerged in water. Therefore, we can't view them, but they're there, they're hidden. And so to the godly energy within creation, the godly energy within every single thing in the world, it's analogous to the sea in the sense that we cannot see it. And just like this is true in the world, so too is this true in each of us individually. Each of us individually has inner koiches pnimim, inner strength that God gave us, and we can go by 20, 30 years and not even be aware of who we really are as Jews and what our strength really is. I want to share a few stories on that theme. First is about Rabbi Hendel Lieberman. Rabbi Hendel Lieberman was the brother of the famous legendary Hasidic mentor Mendel Futerfas, who did hard time in the Soviet Union for his activities in spreading Judaism and helping Jews in Russia. So his brother of Hendel, I think a different name for whatever reason, but he was a brother of Mendel Futerfas, and he took the name Lieberman. So Rabbi Hendel Lieberman was a very gifted artist, and he would travel to different shows to show his artwork. And everyone's told him he was going to a certain show. I don't remember what city it was in. But the Rebbe wanted him to not go to the regular hotel that the religious crowd would usually frequent because it had kosher food, but to go to another hotel near that hotel. That's what the Rebbe instructed him. Don't go to the regular hotel. Go to another hotel close by. So he comes to this show and he puts out his artwork. And his artwork is really unique. I can't really describe his great artwork, but he with his artwork is able to convey a lot of the energy in the Yiddish shtetlach and the Yiddish small towns and the kind of life that they had then. And so he comes to this art show, and as Rebbe instructed, he stayed in this other hotel. And his artwork made a big impression on everyone. Everyone, they weren't used to this picture, that he portrayed of the shtetl, of the nostalgic memories that people had looking at his artwork. It made quite an impression. Anyways, one day he's in his hotel room. There's a knock on his hotel room, and this guy knocks on the door, and this guy doesn't look Jewish at all. He asks Reb Hendel if he could borrow his talis and his tefillin. Sure. He borrows his talis and tefillin, and Reb Hendel was surprised because the guy doesn't even look Jewish, but he comes back after a couple of hours. He sees his eyes are red. Doesn't ask him any questions. The show went on for some time, and every day the guy was asking Reb Hendel for his talis and his tefillin. And finally, Reb Hendel sat down with him and spoke to him. And this guy came from a very strong religious background. He was a yeshiva student, and he, for whatever reason, in Soviet Russia, he got swept away with the Soviet philosophy and communist philosophy, and that's how that's what caused him to be detached from his Judaism. And now, just seeing Reb Handel, and he said, I passed by your room and I heard you daven. Hearing you daven made an impression on me. Made me remember what it was like growing up in this Yiddish town that I grew up in, and the Yontivs and the Shabbos and the Shabbosim, and I wanted to taste that again. I wanted to be part of that again. And I just had to borrow your Talson's film. And this was beginning of this person's discovery of his own, how his sea split, and he discovered his inner neshama. Similar stories shared by Rabbi Yisrael Rubin from Albany, New York. Nein, gesund. Rabbi Rubin was sent by the Rebbe many years ago to Albany, and once got a phone call. He said that Rabbi Rubin says he shared that there's three different kinds of miracles. There are miracles that the Rebbe does, which are not really considered the Rebbe's miracles, but he says they're far greater miracles than miracles people talk about. The miracles that the Rebbe does through his outreach, the outreach that the Rebbe encourages through the 10 mitzvah campaigns, through the Tefillin campaign, the Shabbos campaign, through encouraging people to do the various mitzvahs, it has such an effect on people. Rabbi Rubin says that it's far greater than seeing the other kinds of miracles where you see the Rebbe giving someone a blessing and they have children and they recover from an illness, but seeing the effect of the mitzvahs that through the Rebbe's campaigns, it's far greater, far more dramatic, far more amazing. He said the one story stands out. He shared three stories on this theme. One story is about the effect of the mitzvah campaign. Another story is about how the Rebbe saw a splitting of the sea in a city. And the third story is about how the Rebbe saw within the rabbi who was meant to be sharing the Torah and sharing the mitzvahs, and he has a crisis, and the Rebbe allows the shliach, the rabbi, to experience his own splitting of the Ritzi within himself. So here there's three stories. First is about this guy calls up Rabbi Reuben, tells him that is a relative of his who got attracted to this cult. And this cult was not so far away from Albany. And therefore he asked Rabbi Reuben if he could travel and visit his relative in this cult. Rabbi Reuben traveled there. He went in a car, and it was a couple of hours away. It was in the middle of a forest. There was some kind of a commune. And it was really like it was shell shocked, like to see people living the way they were with his blind faith in this guru. And he managed to locate in this cult the boy that he was sent to try to reach out to, but the boy basically blew him off, and the boy he wasted his time. He spoke to the boy for a long time, but the boy wasn't interested in leaving the cult. Parenthetically, I think I shared this before. Rabbi Shia once shared that when trying to speak to a Jew who's been seduced by a cult, it's important to speak a lot. To repeat the same things again and again. Because the Rebbe said, when you speak a lot, you say the same things again and again, eventually your words will come from the heart. And Rabbeinu Tam writes in Sefer HaYashar, words that come from the heart enter the heart. Therefore, it's important to repeat again and again the same things. You're trying to help someone who has been brainwashed by a cult. Anyways, Rabbi Reuben feels he's wasted his time. He's about to go back to his car and leave, and waste of time. Rabbi, then this boy tells Rabbi Reuben, before you go, tells him with a smirk, you might want to try to speak to our guru. Our guru was Jewish too. Everyone knows he was originally a Jew. You may want to talk to him. So Rabbi Reuben said, I'll do that. And they had a certain system in this cult of who can speak to the guru and when, but he found out where the guru was. He knocks on his door and he goes straight to talk to the guru. One of the characteristics that this guru had was one of his everyone was so blindly following him. But what he actually did, his system was he was with silence. He led with silence. He wouldn't speak. Everyone listened to him, but he would barely talk. Reuben sits down with his guru, not saying a word, Rabbi Reuben begins to talk. He's talking for 2 hours, and the guy doesn't even wink at him, doesn't bat an eyelash, doesn't no effect whatsoever. And Reuben's about to leave, and he actually walks out of the door, and then he says to himself, "You know what? The Rebbe said the main thing is action. This guy is Jewish. I'm gonna go put on tefillin with him." He goes back to the guru, and he lifts up his sleeve, and he puts on tefillin with him. And the guru doesn't protest. He puts on the shal yad, the hand tefillin. He's about to put on the head tefillin, and the guru breaks down and he starts crying. This guy also had a similar upbringing to this gentleman in the first story of Rabbi Lieberman, and he was really, really touched by the putting on tefillin. Today, Rabbi Reuben says, I won't tell you his name, but you would recognize his name because he is very active in teaching Jewish philosophy and Hasidus in a large Jewish community. I don't want to embarrass him, Rabbi Reuben says, therefore I'm not going to share his name, but he is a very, he himself, the guru himself, rediscovered his Judaism, and he has his own Kriyas Yamsuf, his own splitting of the sea within himself. But here's a second story about the splitting of the sea in a city. Rabbi Reuben said that he once got a sudden instruction from the Rebbe to build a mikveh in Troy, New York. Troy is not so far away from Albany, but in Troy, there weren't that very many young people who lived there, certainly not religious people. And the Rebbe gave him this instruction to build a mikveh in the city. Of course, the Rebbe says that he went with faith to do this, but he couldn't understand why would the Rebbe want to build a mikveh here when it didn't seem that anyone there would be using it. I did share a few months ago, if you remember, how the Rebbe said to build a mikveh in Lebanon, story into itself, just for one person. So building a mikveh for one person is certainly important, but this was unusual. The Rebbe was actively instructing this rabbi, you need to build a mikveh in Troy. So a short while after the mikveh was built, the American government was looking for a city to build a similar to Silicon Valley here in California. They're looking for another city to build something similar, a computer city. And they decided to use Troy, New York, of all places, to be that city. And so many couples moved to that city. When they moved there, they found that they had already a kosher mikveh before they arrived in the city. That was already there for them, and subsequent to that, Rabbi Reuben arranged that a new Chabad emissary should move to Troy, New York. But that's a story about a city having a splitting of the Red Sea, discovering what was there in the city that wasn't there, but that no one knew about before. I'm going to share with you the third story, which I find very meaningful personally. Rabbi Reuben said he was having a very hard time. In Albany, there's a very strong presence of conservative and reform, and Rabbi Reuben was having a very hard time sharing Torah and mitzvahs because of that and because of other financial challenges he was having. And he really was thinking of where in the world do we go from here? Like, how can we possibly continue and develop when we have so many challenges? And he said among Hasidim, there are many Hasidim who get many letters from the Rebbe of encouragement, but he never had the kind of those kind of letters from the Rebbe. But as he was going through this personal crisis within himself, he suddenly got a letter from the Rebbe. And the letter of the Rebbe had a message which was very unusual. The Rebbe said, you have to pay attention to the time that we're in right now. The Rebbe sent this letter between Parshas Vayetze and Parshas Vayishlach. The Rebbe said you have to look at the difference that happened to Yaakov between Parshas Vayetze and Parshas Vayishlach. In Parshas Vayetze, Yaakov comes penniless to his future father-in-law, Lavan. He has nothing. He's there without anything. And all of a sudden in Parshas Vayishlach, where he is about to meet his brother Esav, in his prayers, he talks about how I crossed the sea with nothing, but then he said, Hashem has blessed me with two camps. I came with nothing, but all of a sudden, now I have such abundance. Now I have so much. So the Rebbe said a few different things in how Yaakov's life changed between Parshas Vayetzi and Parshas Vayishlach. That was emphasizing how Hashem's salvation comes very, very quickly. From Parshas Vayetzi to Parshas Vayishlach is already this dramatic change in Yaakov's life. He's married and he has a family and he's very, very wealthy. And all of this happens between Parshas Vayetzi in 1 week. We read in the Torah this great change happens to Yaakov. So Rabbi Reuben said personally he thinks that the Rebbe was alluding to detailed events that happened in his own life, and how he saw every letter of the Rebbe's every word and every letter of the Rebbe in that letter was fulfilled exactly to the T. This dramatic change in his own life when he was going through this crisis. One more story before I let you guys go. Rabbi Yitzchak Hazan, Rebbe's emissary to Rome, he shared that in Rome there was a prominent rabbi, the chief rabbi of Rome. His name was Rabbi Yoel Taub, and Rabbi Yoel Taub always shared this story about himself, similar to the story that Rabbi Reuben shared. Rabbi Yoel Taub was leading his community for a long time, chief rabbi, but it was a very great challenge to his leadership. The president of the community in Rome wanted to make various changes to the synagogues. President wanted the synagogues to look more like lahavdil, like the churches. They should have an organ. They should have a microphone to use on Shabbos, as many other communities, unfortunately, were challenged as years went on. That they wanted the Jewish community, the president, the board, wanted various shuls to change to look more like the churches and to have more modern things that violate Jewish law. So this is what this president of the community wanted to do, and Rabbi Taub was convinced that the right response was for him to completely vacate his post. How can he consider himself a rabbi of a community which has a microphone on Shabbos, which has an organ, which is against halacha? So he was going to he sat down and he wrote down his letter of resignation of why he can no longer continue leading the community in Rome. As he's sitting there and he's spending hours writing this letter, these two young men are in the lobby by his secretary, asking to speak to him. Okay, let them come in. These two young men say to him like this: yesterday we visited the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked us to come to visit you and to tell you that that your father is praying for you from the world of truth. Your father is a good better. He is beseeching on your behalf in the world of truth, and all of the issues that seem to be like impossible will shortly, in a matter of in a week or two, will all turn around. So it's important that you stay in your position. Don't leave your position, because all the things you're worried about very quickly, very swiftly, they'll all be transformed for good, and don't have to worry about anything. So dutifully, these men, they said their message and they left, and he's there sitting there with his letter, and he decides, no, he realized this wasn't an accident. He took the letter and he tore up the letter, and he kept in that synagogue for the next 2 weeks. And sure enough, as Rebbe said, the whole storm, the whole tumult was dissipated. What happened was, whatever reason, the head of the community, the president of the community, one who was calling all of this turmoil, he had to temporarily vacate his position. And when he did, so then this whole rebellion, if you will, immediately dissipated. So, bottom line is that when a Jew like Nachshon stands up and decides that he's going to walk in the way of Hashem, the sea splits, as the story of Rabbi Taub, where he went forward and not knowing how things were going to work out, but he went with absolute faith. Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jewish people, go forward towards Mount Sinai, don't worry about the sea. And Nachshon went into the water, and the water reached his nostrils, and all of a sudden, the water split. In a similar way, Rabbi Taub did the same thing. The Rebbe said, go further, and the sea split. Rabbi Reuben did the same thing. He went further, and he got the instruction from the Rebbe, don't worry, it's between Vayetze and Vayishach. Hashem's salvation comes very quickly. In a similar way, whenever any Jew decides that he wants to follow the way of Hashem, he has to realize that Hashem created the obstacle. And the only purpose of the obstacle is only in order that we should split the sea within ourselves and reveal our own faith in Hashem. And when we reveal the faith we have in Hashem and our devotion to Hashem, that causes the world, it causes the challenge itself to be, to see the godliness, which is in the challenge itself. The challenge itself looks like it's such a dark thing, such an impossible thing. But when you reveal within yourself your faith in Hashem, your devotion to Hashem, that causes that the darkness which is in the challenge that you're experiencing, that darkness itself is transformed and the truth of Hashem is revealed. Just like in the story of the splitting of the Red Sea and in many other stories each of us know personally in ourselves, that when we held onto our guns, we held onto the truth. As Rebbe Rashab once remarked, before the truth, everything becomes obsolete. Everything becomes obsolete before the truth. So bottom line is we need to see the splitting of the Red Sea for all the Jewish people, and we need to see the coming of Mashiach when again, as the Torah says, the Hashem will again split the river, as the Torah says, and which again means that Hashem will reveal the godliness which is within creation, the godliness which is within every Jew, and we celebrate this Yontif Shir Shal Pesach in Yerushalayim with Mashiach Tzidkeinu, because we go there tonight with Mashiach to Eretz Yisrael, to Yerushalayim, all of our people, and freedom from all the hostages, and the resurrection of the dead. We should experience this immediately. B'karei mamish. A good moed and a freilich Yontif. Any questions, comments, or criticism? All right, no criticism, my wife says. All right. Good moed, David, and moed Baruch, and moed Beryl.
Oh, hey, I had a question.
Yeah.
Oh, the lulav from Simchat Torah, is that lulav? Do some communities use that in some aspect for Passover?
Some burn it with the chametz. Some burn it with the chametz.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know what the relation was. Thank you.
The moed Pliny Almeni, the moed Chayesara, and the moed Ben Chag, the moed Abba, the moed David, the Rav David, the moed Yehuda, the moed Ben Chayil. Okay.
Is our seventh day of Pesach considered just like a regular day?
What do you mean? It's just an anniversary of splitting the Red Sea. All the light and revelation Hashem brought to the world then is revealed again tomorrow night. The previous episode said that tomorrow night is called the Rosh Hashanah for Mesiras Nefesh. It's Rosh Hashanah, the power to give our lives to Hashem throughout the whole year. In fact, it's Chabad custom tomorrow night to stay up all night to study Chassidus the entire night tomorrow night. It's a very special night.
I mean, we have an extra day here in Chutz La'aretz. We have 8 days.
Right.
So is the 8th day considered the Shvi Shel Pesach?
So the 8th day of Pesach is actually even more special. The 8th day of Pesach, although it seems like the last day, it seems like it's just an extra day in the outside of Israel. The truth is, the 8th day of Pesach is connected to the light of Mashiach. The 7th day of Pesach is more connected to the splitting of the Red Sea. The 8th day of Pesach is with the light of Mashiach, and that's why we have a custom that the Baal Shem Tov established to have matzah and wine last day of Pesach, and to make the Yul Mashiach, to bring the light of Mashiach into us, the faith of Mashiach into us, and to make it happen.
Which day do we read all the prophecies? On the 7th or the 8th?
On the 8th day of Pesach, we have the Haftorah about the coming of Mashiach. All right, good